right, this is John Kohler with GrowingYourGreens.com. Today we have another exciting episode for him here in Puerto Rico, the beautiful tropics. Been working on my property for actually about a week now, clearing, getting things planted, setting up the nursery. But I've come to my favorite place in Puerto Rico. It's actually the Caribbean Agroforestry Institute here in Camuy, Puerto Rico, to visit my friends here that run the Caribbean Agroforestry Institute. If you guys want to learn more about them, their mission to educate the world and even help you guys put in your own permaculture food forest, do consulting, provide plant material, or even do their amazing workshops here where you could come to their property, live here, camp, and go through a permaculture design course. Actually just last weekend, so I couldn't come over the weekend. They actually had a bamboo structure building class. You could learn how to, use bamboo timber, construction grade, to make A-frame buildings. They're doing a lot of cool, amazing work here. And I mean, for me, the most amazing work they're doing is they are collecting plant genetics that can grow amazing here. And not just collecting plant genetics that do get here. Stephanie's always experimenting with new genetics that get given to her by people like me as well as other people, and she brings in a lot of new genetics to see how they're going to grow here in Puerto Rico. And the thing that makes me really sad when I come to Puerto Rico is that back home in the States I eat a lot of organic food. It's relatively inexpensive, it's all industrial grown for the most part, but it's available at every, many grocery stores have even a small organic section. Of course, we could go to places like Sprouts, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, natural grocers that they just have abundant organic sections. And here, trying to come to Puerto Rico, for me personally, to eat, there's a few health food stores. They have a very small organic section, and the produce is very old because generally it doesn't sell because it is so expensive. I think I saw like a head of organic lettuce for $8.99 at the store, and the best place to buy organic greens here in Puerto Rico, unfortunately, is at places like Sam's Club and Costco, which gets the same organic spinach mix and organic, spring mix or hydroponically grown spring mix for around $5, which is kind of almost a similar price in the States. That being said, my channel is dedicated to growing your greens and eating your greens, so that's why I want to focus this episode specifically on the leafy greens you could grow here easily in Puerto Rico that you could harvest every day of the year virtually and have salad out of your own yard instead of having to buy $8.99 a head of organic romaine, or having to go to Costco or Sam's Club and buy the big bins of spinach or spring mix that oftentimes are rotten before you even buy them, right? These plants are super simple. So what we're going to do in this episode is we're going to walk around with Stephanie, the plant mama here, and a baby mama. And we're going to go over and share with you guys our favorite easy to grow leafy greens that'll grow year round. You could go around and pick a leaf off every plant of these. Most of them can be eaten raw. There's a few that are going to have to be cooked to eaten, but you could eat more greens, which are the most nutritious food on the entire planet, and also, unfortunately, the most under-eaten food as well. All right, so now I'm here with my friend Stephanie from the Caribbean Agroforestry Institute. She's amazing. She's a plant. I call her the plant whisperer. She's really modest, but she knows so much about all these tropical greens here that we're going to share with you guys today. So Stephanie, first tell us real quick about the Caribbean Agroforestry Institute and why you started this place.
Sure. I love plants, and I love plants that I can eat, and I love sharing that passion with other people. So we're an agricultural education facility. We teach classes for kids, classes for grown-ups, anything from agroforestry, permaculture courses, as well as herbalism courses, as well as off-grid solar and water systems, pretty much anything it takes to live off-grid and grow your own food and be as healthy as possible. We're into participating and helping people connect with plants, and then therefore connect with themselves and eat delicious things.
Wonderful. So how can somebody learn more before I forget to tell you how they can contact you?
You can go to the CaribbeanAgroforestry.org.
All right, I'll put the link right down below, and I recommend all the programs she has here wholeheartedly. All right, so Stephanie, let's get into the greens that we're going to talk about today. Yeah. Today, first, you decided to talk about the Chaya. So I know a little bit about the Chaya. I grow this in Vegas. It actually lives year-round. It doesn't like the winter. But I wouldn't say it's cold tolerant, but it just defoliates, and then every year it comes back.
It's hardy.
It's hardy. Yeah, some of the stems stay alive. Some of it, the young stuff dies back, but it comes back. And then this year I chopped out the overstory stupid plant, and now it just took off and even went to flower before we got too cold.
Wow.
But nonetheless, you may be able to grow this near you. But here in the tropics, it grows easily year round. And this plant specifically, you do need to cook to eat it. It does have some cyanide properties in there, and I just usually just chop them and I steam them like in my Instant Pot for like 3 minutes, and they're fine.
Awesome.
So tell us more about this from
Sure.
your perspective, Stephanie.
I love Chaya. You can see how vigorous it is. This went in as a cutting about 6 months ago, and it's already
6 months.
taller than we are.
Wow.
So I have a whole hedgerow of it here. It makes a great privacy screen as well, an edible privacy screen. You have to cook it though. It's super nutritious and just so vigorous and has a really agreeable flavor. When we have our courses, we cook for people here and they'll eat all their meals here, and we'll do a lot of like cream spinach and other greens dishes, and nobody really ever knows what they're eating because we have so many different greens that they haven't tried before. But anyone who likes any kind of other green cooked in any kind of dish, this is a great substitute.
It's really, to me, it's very neutral.
Oh yeah,
Like
it
when
doesn't
you
have a
cook it.
strong flavor
Yeah,
at all.
you could just add whatever flavors and it'll take those on.
Yeah, and it holds up through all the cooking. It has a really nice texture. And just so incredibly prolific and partners well with other fruit trees, like in the understory of fruit trees or on the edges of your property. It's just an amazingly strong plant that it doesn't have any pest problems or disease problems. It just goes and goes and goes. And then, like a lot of our perennial greens, one of the other amazing things about them is if we want to make more, we just stick that in the ground.
Yeah, it
and
just takes a stem. One stem, this thing will root out, and then it'll grow a new growth, and it grows into this in 6 months.
Amazing.
Amazing. This is why everybody in Puerto Rico, in my opinion, should be growing Chaya as well as some of these other greens you're going to learn about in a minute. Oh, so Stephanie, last question is.
Yeah.
So when you harvest this, I've noticed sometimes when I harvest, I'll just like pluck off like the whole stem like this, and then I cook them like this, but then sometimes the stems don't break down. So like then I'll usually, when I'm cooking them, I'll just break out the leaves only and then just like compost the stems. What do you normally do?
Yep. So because I'm always trying to make more of these, I'll cut the whole thing down and cut it into a bunch of pieces that I can replant, and then do like
just
you
take
did.
the leaves only, no stems.
Yep. But the Bele, when we talk about that, I do use
Yeah,
the
they're
stems
more
of
tender.
that one.
Yeah. All right, cool. Let's check out the next green you could grow year-round here in Puerto Rico. All right, so you guys just saw the tree spinach or the Chaya. You need to cook it. Now we're going to talk about the Sisso spinach or Brazilian spinach that kind of grows low to the ground, kind of using it as a ground cover here, that you could eat raw. So Stephanie, tell us about the Sisso spinach, because I have very little experience with this plant.
This is one of my favorite ones. You can eat it raw, but it's a little bit thick, so I like it like in place of like kale in a kale salad, something you're going to marinate for a little bit, or you can cook it. Again, a pretty mild flavor. Grows really dense, so in this row I have it underneath my hot peppers as a ground cover, so the overstory is the hot peppers and the understory is the Brazilian spinach. It competes with grasses pretty well, and it's also, because it's low growing, but it doesn't really, like it still sits upright, so I can actually take my weed whacker and maintain my grass pathways right underneath it without a lot of hand weeding. So it's an awesome, awesome herb and vegetable, and again, it's just, this is the beauty of perennial greens. It's got all those little hairs on it, and if you'll know from starting tomatoes or other things, all those little hairs turn into roots when you put them underground, and so I just pick up all these leaves, top the top, and stick that in the soil, and we'll have a new one. Lately I've been putting it actually in my fruit trees that I grow in the pot when I'm waiting to get them bigger. I'll just put it right in the pot with it, so then later when I plant my fruit tree out,
understory.
Yeah, understory included. It's super nutrient dense. It's so green. Really, really good for you. This one, Brazilian spinach.
And how do you normally eat it or cook it? Aside from the kale, like a kale salad, would you cook this or just?
Yep. So I do cook this one a lot, and it's really easy to just kind of strip off all the leaves, and it doesn't have the stem like the Chaya and the Bele do, so you don't have to really worry about using that. This one I've also just added raw into smoothies and stuff like that,
nice.
and blended up that way. It's nice because the other ones, in most of your dishes, you would need to, you know, take the stem off, cut them up into smaller pieces. This one's just a perfect bite size already, the way that it grows.
And young, tender end tips would be edible stem too, like just this. You could just eat this because it's young and tender. But then when it gets more fibrous, kind of like a down, you know, as it grows closer to the ground.
So I don't generally eat the main stem, but I will, and then take the little leaf stems. But you can just strip it like that so fast, and sometimes the little ones will come, but that cooks up really easy, and it's already, you don't even have to chop it. It's like just ready to go.
Because they're like little small baby leaves to eat.
Little leaves.
I wish this tastes as good as mosh. Like, it reminds me of like little mosh leaves. Like, I grow that in the winter.
I don't know what mosh is.
Oh, you don't?
No.
It's like corn salad.
Oh, okay. Maybe.
Yeah. It's good. It's delicious. But yeah, another one, Brazilian spinach or Sisso Spinach. Eat it raw. All right, so now we have yet another leafy green, but actually this one's a leafy red or purple because it actually has anthocyanins in there. And this is another one of my favorite greens. Actually, I grow it in Vegas during the summer season. Doesn't like the cold, but in the summer, this one thrives the most out of all the edible hibiscuses that I grow. This I know is the Cranberry Hibiscus or the false Roselle. What would you call it, Stephanie?
I call it Cranberry Hibiscus.
All right, cool.
Well.
And then how do you use it, and tell everybody about this here in Puerto Rico?
So this is really, I use it raw and cooked, but raw in your salad, it just adds this like beautiful punch of color. And it's actually, a lot of the greens are kind of mild in flavor. This has a nice, tart, yummy flavor, a real citrusy.
Light, yes, light. It's not super hardcore.
Just a light one, but cranberry-esque. And the color is just absolutely amazing. I also use it for tea. And then, like we were talking about a second ago, I also make like a jelly or a jam out of it. So I just take, it's very prolific. I'll just take a whole bunch of the leaves, wilt them down with a tiny bit of water and a little bit of sugar, put it in the blender, and then because of the mucilagenic content in it, it just kind of gels up. And it's a perfect jam for toast or for whatever.
So you're just using you're using leaves, not even the calyxes or little flowers or anything.
Just the leaves. So
it's it's a leaf jelly.
It's a leaf jelly. Everybody thinks I'm making them like cranberry jelly.
Yeah, because I thought you told me about that. I thought you were using like the calyxes, you know, once they're dried up or bigger.
Nope, just the leaves. It's amazing. It's so delicious. And then this one, mostly we do them from seed, but this also can be done from cutting. So you can just take a cutting of this, just like we did with the other ones, take off the leaves, top it, and stick it in the wet ground, and you get another beautiful, beautiful plant in the garden.
And then do you ever do anything with like the flower buds? Like, I love to eat these little flower buds too.
Yeah, just eat them, and we use the open flowers in salads, and then just munch on them when we're running around the garden needing a snack.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite plants actually. I mean, not only because it grows easily, it loves the heat, it grows amazing here, but also because it's a purple color. I want you really guys to eat your purple vegetables. Put a link down below to my video where I go over the science on purple vegetables and why they're so important to eat. So if you only choose one plant out of all the plants that we're sharing with you guys today, I would say grow this one because it's purple. But of course, all the other ones are good too. So Stephanie taught me something new just now, that what I call Roselle, or what would you call this?
Flor de Jamaica.
Flor de Jamaica, so it's kind of related to the Cranberry Hibiscus. This is the Roselle, that's the false Roselle. This is another hibiscus that's edible, but she informed me that actually it's more of an annual or a short-lived perennial, and actually from seed. I thought it was a perennial. I mean, coming from the non-tropics myself. But.
Yeah, she'll just make all of the beautiful calyxes at this time of year, and there are different varieties that flower at different day lengths. So this is the early one, then there's a mid-season one and a late one, so you can get a pretty big flowering window. But once they fully go to seed and produce these beautiful calyxes, then they're pretty much done. They're done.
Us. Wow, but the cranberry keeps going.
Yeah, but these are amazing little hibiscus flowers for tea, or for sometimes we'll candy them, we dry them, We'll do all kinds of different culinary things. We've pickled them before when they're young.
Wow.
We'll pickle the whole flower. And then inside that is your big seed pod. And get tons of
We'll
seeds
show that
in
on the camera there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like inside this, if you open it up, you guys could see there. It's just like there's just a storehouse of seeds that just come right out.
So while it's not perennial, and this one won't live all that long, she will give me as many flowers and seeds as I could possibly use, and then I can spread it around.
For next year, or the seeds will just drop and grow more. All right, this one calyx had this many seeds minus 3 I dropped. So
And there was like probably over 150 calyxes on each plant. So
yeah,
lots
this
of
one,
them.
not quite a perennial, but it's honorable mention because it's related to the other one and it grows really easy.
And you
the
can
leaves,
eat the leaves too.
Yeah, the leaves taste very similar to the Cranberry Hibiscus also.
And look at the dye.
Oh, yeah,
so it
she's
makes
already-
a really nice dark, a little lip
Putting your
balm.
lip, yeah, on your lips for the color without all natural. All right, so the next perennial green we're going to share with you guys actually is my favorite, actually, because I love the flavor of this so much. This is known as the Katuk, or was it? I think it's a sauropus. I think is a Latin name. So Stephanie, tell us about the Katuk from your perspective.
This one actually is the favorite of most people who come through trying the perennial greens because it has an agreeable flavor, but like a little bit stronger than some of the other ones are very bland. But this one has almost like a nutty flavor to it.
Yeah, my friend says it tastes like peanut butter. I don't know if I'd go that
I
far.
don't know, like a sesame.
Yeah, so like I just like to come and just strip the leaves right off, and you could have a whole barrel of leaves.
It's so delicious. The flavor is amazing. The older leaves, I tend to like to cook those, but then the younger leaves, I'll just eat fresh as little. Sometimes they make it to the kitchen, but a lot of times we just eat them while we're farming. And this is another one that you just cut the katuk, and you can put it in and drop it right in to make another plant. And then every time you cut these things, they just get bushier and bushier and bushier. So you want to cut them anyway, and then you just get this amazing, delicious snack plus planting material to go in the ground somewhere else.
And then also you just told me and informed me, because I didn't know this, about the unripe seed pods. So you want to tell everybody about that?
So these are the beautiful little flowers underneath. I don't know if we can see those. And they'll produce these fat little round pods that'll have the seeds in them, but before the seeds are hard and viable, they're like fleshy, crunchy, small little balls, and they're delicious just fresh off the plant. Or I've pickled them before, a jar of them, because it's really prolific, as you can see, and they're really, really yummy. When the seeds are more finished and viable, they're hard and they're not so good, but when they're young, they're delicious.
So tell us about starting these from seed versus cuttings. Have you started them from seed, and does that work? Or
Yeah, I've started them from seed, and it works. And I do that sometimes for the genetic diversity, just to have some around, but it's so easy from cuttings that I just end up doing the majority of them from cuttings.
Now the other thing I heard is that interesting is because, like, you know, the stem down here is more, you know, thick, and then as it goes to the top, it's more tender. So you could snap this off, and it basically, what I've heard is if you just take like all the leaves off, and this is like basically a tropical asparagus because it's so tender.
Yeah.
No need to cook it even. And so delicious. Really nice neutral flavor.
Yeah, Katuk, amazing. So I'm working on my Katuk hedge here, little by little.
And I got some cuttings today. The other thing I want to let you guys know is I've seen studies on this. As good as this tastes, you don't want to concentrate this by juicing it because that could be problematic. But just enjoy the greens raw. All right, next up, we're going to show you guys another amazing perennial green. Another one of my favorites. I have so many favorites. Actually, I grow this one in Las Vegas. It is able to live year-round. In the spring and the summer until about November, I have leaves that are amazing. And it'll probably grow about 12 feet during that season. And then right around November, right about now, it's basically all the leaves are turning yellow, dropping off. And then during the winter, all the top tender growth is going to die back. And then some of the lower stem or, you know, trunk will stay alive and then basically reshoot next year. You know, if you live in a zone 8 or above, you might have luck with this. Otherwise, you just grow it like as a house plant in the wintertime because it doesn't like the cold. But nonetheless, tell us about your experience with Moringa here in Puerto Rico, Stephanie?
Moringa. So these will not go dormant for us. They'll just get bigger and bigger and bigger. So if I want to be able to keep enjoying these beautiful greens, I have to keep the plants small, or I also grow some dwarfing varieties that'll stay small. I do let some of them get big. It's also called drumstick tree, and the pods are edible when they're young. And so I'll utilize those for cooking as well on some of the bigger trees. But then these ones I keep small, so I'll keep cutting them down and cutting them down and cutting them down and harvesting the greens so that they'll stay bushy. This one is young and hasn't been cut yet, but I'll cut it about like waist high, and then it'll just bush out and make lots of greens. So Moringa has a stronger flavor, so I don't eat a full salad of it like I would with Katuk or Bele, but an amazing super green with so much vitamins and minerals in it. And it's got a great flavor, adds a nice punch to curries and stuff like that. Also called horseradish tree. A lot of names for this one, and it just is so prolific. And again, all of these greens, like no pest and disease problems, they just keep going and keep going. And this one I've done from cuttings as well, and planted it straight as a cutting, or often I'll do these as seeds, especially the ones I'm going to let get really big.
Yeah, so I think my input would be that you know, if you grow up from seed or from cutting, it's gonna the root system is gonna be a lot different. So it's always better to grow from seed because you're gonna get a nice tap root. If you do it from cutting, the roots are not gonna go like be a tap root. They're gonna grow kind of squaggly and out. So the tree may not be as long lived, although it could grow for a good period of time. May not be as stable during, you know, inclement weather. Let's say that.
That's definitely the Moringas that I'm gonna have grow tall and big. Those ones I always grow from seed because I want that tap root, because I know some hurricane's going to come at some point, and I want the strongest root system possible, while the ones that I grow and keep small,
just for green
then
harvest,
I'll do my cuttings.
And then the other thing I like to do is I like to come up to the tender growth, you know, so like these are the growth tips. So if I'm using raw for salad, you know, I'll just crop off this, and this just goes into my salad. Super tender, super mild. If I'm harvesting for cooking, then I'll come down and I'll like strip the leaves, because like this one, these stems really, even if I steam them, they're still like sticks in there. But if I just just take off all the greens and little small stems, it's totally fine. And the other thing I want to let you guys know is that, like, you know, this plant is an anti-cancer plant. It actually has the isothiocyanates, much similar to broccoli and cauliflower. So it's actually very, can help with phase 2 liver detoxification, and is anti-cancer. So it's one powerful plant that you definitely should grow, whether you're going to grow it as an annual, or if you're lucky enough to live in the tropics here in Puerto Rico, you should definitely plant one of these trees in your yard for sure.
Or maybe 10.
All right, so now we got yet another perennial green. This is more of a ground cover. This is actually a very special and rare plant right here. This is actually the jagged leaf longevity spinach, sourced from Josh at, what is it?
Cody Cove.
Cody Cove. Link down below to my video at Cody Cove. Josh, like, in my opinion, rules the world. He's awesome.
Absolutely.
So tell us about your experience with the jagged leaf longevity spinach.
Right,
Stephanie.
another, like the Brazilian spinach, another ground cover spinach. Not quite as, like, compact. It spreads out a little bit more, but the flavor is amazing. And again, just, like, look at the hairs on this. It just roots so easily. The flavor's wonderful. Another one I try to put in with my fruit trees to have the, like, ground cover in a box kind of thing. And then really easy, it likes to lean over, and wherever it touches the ground, it's going to root in there. So oftentimes I'll come and spread my mulch on top of it, and then I can get it to travel down the bed. So the Brazilian spinach is a little more like all together and really compact. This one likes to run a little bit. So I've been able to, like, work it as it goes down a row and keep it in the row, but keep it running down.
And then you're also using this as an understory to your eggplants.
Right, exactly.
And then how do you like to eat this? Do you eat it raw, or do you cook it? What do you do?
I mostly cook this one. I don't think the flavor is my all-time favorite, but it's good. But best for me, I like to cook it. And it's got it's a little more dense, so it holds up really well to the cooking.
Yeah, the other thing I would say is that this flavor of this jagged edge longevity spinach is a little bit more hard, I would say, than the normal flat leaf. you know, that one's a little bit more mild and tender tasting to me. Yeah, but also this could be because this is grown in Puerto Rico and the weather. But I mean, I grow my longevity in Las Vegas, the standard leaf kind, which is totally does great, and it's like more mild tasting. But yeah, nonetheless, another one of my favorite perennial greens that you definitely want to grow here in Puerto Rico. All right, now we're going to show you guys probably one of our favorite perennial greens. This is known as the Bele, and this is the more of the kind that Stephanie already had existing growing here. This thing is probably like 12 feet tall, and this is just a lower branch off of it. So Stephanie, tell us about the wideleaf Bele that you've been growing here.
Sure. Yeah, definitely one of my favorites. It is so incredibly productive, can be eaten raw or cooked. These leaves are so big, and they get even bigger on the taller plants up there, but this one's like as big as my face already. Another one that you just cut and shove into the ground. Really, really nice flavor on the Bele, and these young shoots, I also eat kind of like asparagus. I'll eat them raw, but I'll also cook them. And chop them up and cook them for a few minutes extra, and then throw the Bele in. I was just saying my favorite new dish is a creamed cashew cream Bele spinach. It's so good, and everybody's just like blown over. One, that it's just cashew cream and not real cream, and then also that the Bele is in there and it's not, you know, regular spinach.
Yeah, this stuff is so prolific, grows really great, and there's different kinds. So like I brought her the new leaf shape, maybe we'll show you guys in a little bit, that I've been growing, and it's I mean, in Vegas, it loves the heat. I mean, we had over 110 days, over 100 degrees this summer, and my Bele kept growing, and my Bele got, I think, like 12 feet tall, were the tallest ones by the time like the cold was gonna take it out. But,
and then you bring them inside, or what do you do, or do they come back?
They come to Puerto Rico.
I could babysit
to go
them.
on tropical vacation forever.
And then just bring cuttings back with you when it's time to plant again.
Or I just get new starts from Baker Creek, yeah. Link down below for where I get my cuttings of the longevity spinach and the Bele. They'll ship them to you, little small cuttings, all throughout the USA, starting in the springtime at rareseeds.com. I showed their greenhouse and everything, link down below to that video. Also link down below to my video where I talk about Bele, or the salad tree, which is definitely one of my favorite annual greens to grow in the States, perennial here. All right, so here's yet another variant of the Bele. This is the one I brought her, that is the kind I grow. And actually this was actually a cut, well, a plant I gave her that then she took a cutting of because the plant died, but then the cutting lived on.
Yeah, as you might have seen, my dogs are crazy and they barrel rolled that plant, and I was going to murder them, but I decided to let them live, and it made a few cuttings out of that original plant, and now growing like crazy. And I love the leaf shape of this one, and the deep red. The deep red stem is so beautiful. And I actually do work with an Indian chef who came over, who has a much more delicate palate than I do, and he absolutely loved this.
The flavor
one
was
the
better
best.
than the other one.
Yep.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, so I mean, I'll say that definitely you growing it, Stephanie, is growing better than the ones I'm growing in Las Vegas. Like this looks a lot more lush. I'm sure your soil is a lot more better. And also you've even gotten it to go to flower here, which is interesting. And then of course she also has a couple more varieties she's got back over here that she just got cuttings of. So, you know, Bele is one amazing plant, and another one you have to grow, guys, whether you're going to grow it as an annual, if you're not lucky enough to live here in Puerto Rico or the tropics, or, you know, grow it as a perennial if you are lucky enough to live here.
Yeah, so beautiful, great raw, great cooked, prolific, again, like no pest or disease issues, and the nutrient profile of these perennial greens is so far surpasses like lettuce that people are eating, and spending tons of money on lettuce that's in the store that's been in a box for 3 weeks coming from wherever. Here in Puerto Rico, it's probably been 4 weeks in shipment from California or wherever, and there's, even if it started with a certain amount of nutrients, it barely has any by the time it gets to someone's plate. And all the while, this grows into a giant tree in just a few months, and what a gift it is, and what an amazing opportunity to feed our bodies and our eyes with this one.
And our soul, by getting back to nature, digging in the dirt. So now we're going to go ahead and share with you guys our last perennial green. And I don't know, I keep saying all these are my favorites. They're all my favorites. I can't make it up, make up my mind. But this one actually I learned about at a trade show. Actually, it was a health food trade show. And of course, they didn't have the plant there at the health food trade show. They're trying to sell you a bottle of green powder, actually, which was from Japan. And they have comparisons on how much more nutritious this is than kale. And even back then, I was like, okay, great, I could buy your green powder, but you say this plant is called Molokhia or something. And I'm like, okay, then it stuck in my head. You got to grow that one day, John. And then finally I was able to buy the seeds and then grow it myself to make my own green powder out of it, but also just eat the greens, which in my opinion are way better than green powder because I can just come out and harvest the fresh greens. No nutrition has been lost because I literally picked it and it goes right in the mouth. No drying, no oxidation, no nothing. Fresh nutrition. So this one is known as, in English, is Egyptian spinach. So Stephanie, tell us about the Egyptian spinach you're growing here.
Yeah, and this one's relatively new to me. I'm pretty sure you brought me the seeds, but I can't
Probably.
remember that one.
Maybe.
But so delicate, like the fiber in these leaves is so nice, easy to chew, great fresh. This one actually doesn't get past fresh. I don't ever cook it because it's just so good fresh. And then these little seed pods, when they're young, are so crisp and yummy.
Yeah, I mean, this plant is kind of related to okra, but you could eat these little seed pods when they're young. They get more mature. She has dried seed pods that have the seeds, of course, but these young ones, they remind me of like between like an okra and a cucumber. A little bit mucilaginous, but more like a cucumber, crunchy and delicate, like melt in your mouth.
And this one, I haven't done it from cuttings before because it's just so prolific with the seed production, and it's so easy to grow from seed that then I just...
Yeah, the seeds just come out. Now, the interesting thing about the seeds, if you are not lucky enough to live here in the tropics where the weather is nice, the temperature of the soil is warm year-round, and it's also wet many times of the year, you know, how I had to start these seeds was a special process because normally in Vegas, I'd throw out the seeds and I'd barely get any plants every year. This year, I'm like, I got to do something different. So actually, I use warm water out of the tap and let the seeds soak overnight in warm water. And then I actually put it under vacuum to force the water in there. And then the next day I planted wet seeds in the garden and basically had like a 98% germination rate. And then when these guys started out slow, they started out like little microgreens. They grew. Took like a month for them to grow like this big. But once they got like this big, then poof, like over a season, these got to be like 12 feet tall from like June to November. And now when I get back, I have so many seed pods to harvest to keep the genetics going and even spread them to more people because this is a prolific seed producer.
Yeah, that's definitely everybody and everything I had read about it was like, oh, it's so prolific, so prolific. And when I started the seed, and they're like growing so slow,
and they're like,
I was
come on,
geez, guys, like, come on, this is my jungle's gonna eat you before you get big enough. But once they hit their stride,
then they're boof, they're going.
Yeah, can't stop them.
Wonderful. Yeah, another favorite green here that I want you guys to grow. That grows easy. All these greens, guys.
Grows easy.
Grow easy. Pretty much no pest pressures here in the tropics. You guys could be harvesting greens out of your garden, saving the money from having to buy the organic greens and all the wilty, terrible greens that are imported from off-island. All right, Stephanie, so I know a lot of you guys that are watching right now have a lot of questions about some of the perennial greens that we've talked about in this very episode. Like, probably the biggest question is, John, where do I get these perennial greens? I can't just go down to the nursery. Like, yeah, you try to go to the nursery here in Puerto Rico. Sorry, they're not going to have probably any of these perennial greens that we talked about. Maybe you could order them online. But Stephanie, I know you don't ship because you're just here on island. But if somebody is lucky enough to live here in Puerto Rico, can they contact you and you can, you know, get them the plants, get them the education, and even teach them how to plant things if they don't know how?
Absolutely. Yeah, so we don't ship, but there are plenty of people, and I think you already mentioned
in the
Baker's
States,
Creek and Josh at Cody Cove.
Etsy. Well, Josh doesn't ship. Is he shipping
in
now?
Florida?
Oh, in
only
Florida
in Florida
only. Yeah. But yeah, places like Etsy or eBay, I think I found, you know, I get plants shipped and things and cuttings.
I've got some good stuff from Etsy. But if you are here in Puerto Rico or you're visiting Puerto Rico and you would like to stop by, we can get you some plants that way. And we do have various courses where we can also eat the plants for dinner and propagate the plants, and you get to go home with some of those cuttings as well.
Wow, that's really cool. And then tell us about, because I mean, I think to me, you're like a born educator, kind of like me.
Oh, thanks.
So like, how often do you do educational courses? Is it like just per drop-in, or do you have structured classes, or you want to tell people about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, so we have a series of courses throughout the year, more in the wintertime because it's a little bit drier and a little bit cooler, some in the summer as well, everywhere from a half day to our 10-day permaculture course. Our next big course coming up is our 4-day permaculture and off-grid intensive, where we'll do 2.5 to 3 days of a real hands-on, practical design, install, build of an agroforestry syntropic system, as well as discussing and doing some maintenance on some of the older systems. We'll design, build a rainwater catchment system from start to finish, as well as a small solar system. So kind of your 4 to 5 day immersion course from January 23rd through 27th of 2025, so this January coming up quick. Camp here on site, nice fresh spring water showers, and bring your boots and your gloves because this is going to be a get dirty kind of course.
And of course, they're going to be eating like all the crops. They're going to be learning about planting, like, you know, for dinner and stuff, right?
Yep,
and for lunch.
Yep, we'll harvest the food together, then we'll bring them into the kitchen and learn how to cook with them, and you'll be eating pretty much probably 80% of the food that we feed our students comes from off the property. A lot of the Bele, a lot of the spinaches, you get to taste them in all kinds of fancy and not so fancy ways.
Wow, that sounds totally amazing. Maybe if I'm here during that time, I'll have to drop in to see what's happening and make a special appearance. So, Stephanie, is there anything else you'd like to share today before we sign off about all these perennial greens that all you guys in YouTube land learned about?
Just stick them in the ground. There's no reason not to. No matter what climate you live in, they may not be perennial for you, but you can get a huge amount of produce so easily, and you can save the cuttings for the next season. I have some clients who brought them back from Puerto Rico to their house, like even in Colorado, put them in a sunny window. They don't look great, but they do live, and then they put them back outside in the summertime. So there's no reason not to grow them. And if you're in the tropics or the subtropics, it's so silly to be growing lettuce. And if you like it, great, but it's all the bending over and the rebuying of the seeds, and the it's right next to the dirt, so the greens are even kind of dirty. These ones you saw,
they're off the ground.
You don't even have to wash them. There's not a speck of dirt on them. It's like a no-brainer. Higher nutrition, super vigorous, way easier, like easy gardening. You don't have to beat your head against the wall trying to figure out if you have a green thumb. These make you feel like you have a green thumb for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely concur with everything you said. And for me personally, I mean, especially living in Las Vegas, one of the hottest cities in the entire country, I'm not growing lettuce in the summertime. Now, yes, right now in the wintertime, I'm going to be growing lettuce as soon as my summer things come out. But, that's why all the perennial greens that are grown here year-round, I grow the same ones in the summer only, and they thrive because they love the heat. And then if I was hardcore, I'd basically take cuttings, bring them inside, just kind of keep them alive, and then take them out next year after they've rerooted and start them. Usually I just end up with buying new plants from places and getting them from friends and whatnot. But yeah, I think that perennial greens, wherever you live, whether you want to grow them as an annual in your summer season, or even more importantly, if you guys live in the tropics, like especially Puerto Rico, you have to be growing these greens. I mean, I wish they were selling these, and my goal is to get these greens into every nursery around the island so that people could get them easily instead of having to come and visit Stephanie, because these greens are far and few in between, and unfortunately people do not know about them. Oh, Stephanie, before we sign off, let's talk about, you're doing some nonprofit work, and you're going to be putting in food forests in communities around Puerto Rico, I think 10 of them?
Right, so next year we hope to be installing 10 community food parks around the island. Maybe more, we'll see, but they will definitely have all of these perennial greens. So then each community that these food parks are in, they're not only food parks to eat from, but they're food parks to get propagation material from. And so then the community there can see how delicious these plants are and have their own resource bank of these perennial greens that they can take home into their own gardens.
Wow, so she is doing amazing work. So help support her. She has a nonprofit. So if you want to donate to the nonprofit, how can somebody donate their money so that Puerto Rico could have community food parks that are all edible?
Absolutely.
How can they do that, Stephanie?
So just go to our main site, CaribbeanAgroforestry.org. Right on the main page, you can click there to donate, and 501c3, so tax deductible. Now's the time of the year, and support food parks across the island. And then you can come around, and you don't have to come all the way to my place. You might be over by San Juan, and you could stop at a community food park and pick up your Bele.
So yeah, it's another great idea, and you know, she's been doing this for a long time, and you know, both of our missions is to get this information and, more importantly, the plants out to you guys out there so that this can be done everywhere, and people can stop buying things from the grocery store that's old, wilted, and especially imported. So especially if you live in places like Hawaii, you know, I have many friends over in Hawaii growing many of these same exact plants that you guys could also grow there. I have resources where I visited nurseries, links down below if I remember, to places on the Big Island that have a lot of these plants already, so that you could put these in another amazing tropical island here, you know, in the United States. Well, technically Puerto Rico is not a state, it's a territory. So, and it is beautiful here. It's not a pile of junk like some people say.
It's beautiful here. The people are amazing, the plants are amazing, the climate's fantastic. I'm so glad you're here joining us more often than
Me too.
you're used to.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. So anyways, for those of you guys out there in YouTube land, if you guys enjoyed this episode, help me out. Do me a favor. Give this video a big thumbs up. Also, more importantly, share this with other people that live in Puerto Rico, live in tropical Caribbean islands, live in other, you know, tropical islands like Hawaii, Guam, other territories of the United States, and even around the world, so that they can learn about some of these amazing perennial greens that literally are from around the world that you can grow in your garden and eat from every single day of the year. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss my new and upcoming episodes that come in every 5 to 7 days. You never know where I'll show up, what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel, so you guys can grow more of your own food at home. Make sure you click the little bell so you're notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check my past episodes. My past episodes are a wealth of knowledge, over 1,700 episodes at this time on this channel, dedicated to teach you guys all about how to grow your own food at home, especially linked down below to the video that I made here originally at the Caribbean Agroforestry Institute, so you could learn more about it. So with that, my name is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep on growing.
Yeah.